Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Facebook Live. And we've got a really special program for you today. My name is Joel Levin, and I just want to start by saying Kaya, ya Nyani Wajila, Yening Nunga Buja. So, as a white man on Noongar country, just paying my respects to all that the Aboriginal community offers us as a state and actually as a nation. And acknowledging elders past, present, and future from whatever country you're on in Australia and wherever you're watching us from today. As I say, we've got a really exciting session for you today, and I'm really looking forward to sharing. I'm an independent facilitator and here on behalf of the WA Association for Mental Health, or as is more affectionately known, WAAMH. So WAAMH is actually a peak body that has a lead role in mental health. It looks at systemic advocacy, sector training development, and mental health promotion. And it's a membership organisation, so they're a really important resource that the WA community has when it comes to mental health. And today wouldn't be possible without them. And it also wouldn't be possible without the WA Mental Health Commission. So they've been supporting WAAMH in putting this broadcast together. So just an acknowledgement of WAAMH and acknowledgement of the Mental Health Commission as well. So today, this is our second session in this series. Previously, we've had Matt Ball, and in just a little while, I'm going to invite Dai Wilcox to take over the presentation. And, you know, one of the things I think that makes this really special is that we want to hear from you. So yes, we're here on camera. I'm going to be presenting to you, but we really want to hear from you. The topic of today's session is helping children cope during a pandemic. And we know that there are lots of people out there with kids. There are lots of people out there that are uncles and aunties. You don't have to have kids to know that something like the COVID-19 pandemic has had an effect on all of us, especially young people. So we're interested and super keen for you to share your experiences with us. So the way you can do that is we've got a couple of questions for you. What have you seen that has worked for children to cope during the pandemic? And what impact did you see the pandemic had on young people? And we'd really love to hear your views, and we'd actually like you to join us on this Zoom session and have a chat to Dai. And you may even have some questions for Dai. And if you do, we've got this email address down here, mentalhealthpromotions@waam.org.au. If you email that, and we'll get that email posted up in the chat screen in just a second. If you email that and you say, hey, I'd really love to jump on and join the call, then we'd love to see you, and we'll take you through how that's all going to work. The reality is there is no such thing as experts. All respect to Dai, your lived experience, what you've lived, what you've seen work. We want to hear from everybody. Everybody's an expert, and we really want to hear from everyone. So it's with that gives me great pleasure to introduce Dai Wilcox. She's got a degree in social science and a diploma of education, over 20 years in the classroom, kind of at the coalface, looking at working with young people and children. She's an education expert for Channel 9. She's the author of a number of books. The one that probably most well known for is The Magic Coat, which is basically a social, mental, emotional program for young people, providing a common language. And Dai's also got her own segment talking on Foxtel. Now, because not everybody is here and it's just me kind of presenting, and Dai, who I'm going to get Dai to put her camera on as well, I thought I'd prepare a studio audience to welcome Dai to the stage, as it were. How are you going?
Hello, Joel. Hi, everybody. So lovely to see you all this morning. Well, I wish I could see everyone this morning. I could see Joel.
I'll leave you to it, Dai. We're in your capable hands.
Oh, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. And I really loved what Joel just said about there's no such thing as experts. You know, my passion is children. My passion is families. It's helping children have simple and effective strategies to manage their social and emotional well-being. But I learn so much from the people that I workshop to, the children that I work with. People are teachers to me. So when Joel said that we'd love to hear from you, I certainly would. So please get on board and join us. I really miss sitting in front of a live audience and talking to everybody. And I can assure you that I am not in my pajama pants. I am actually properly dressed because webinars have been a brand new way of presenting for me. So let's get started. Our topic is helping children cope during the pandemic. And you know, for many children, their world has significantly changed. Their routines have significantly changed. And I've got two daughters myself, and I know my younger one, who's still in school, she really struggled with not seeing her friends. She struggled with the fact that we couldn't go to all those after-school activities. Life did change for her. And it's really important that we're able to talk to our children about the pandemic in an age-appropriate manner. So for really little kids, they may not notice a huge difference in the world, but they will notice a change in family routine. And it's okay for you to share with them what's going on in a very gentle way. They don't need to know all the detail. When we talk to children, though, we're helping them to cope, prepare, and make sense of what's going on around them. And this is super important because they want to be able to trust their carers. They want to know that you will let them know what's going on, and that while you're letting them know what's going on, you're saying, don't worry, we've got this. You are going to be safe. You're going to be okay. And when we do this, we allow children to open up and talk to us because they know that you're willing to talk about anything and everything to them. And this is super important, especially as they get older. Many teenagers shut down, and I've heard parents say to me, my child just grunts at me. Well, if you start from a young age showing your child that you are prepared to talk about anything, even those topics that sometimes make us feel uncomfortable, you are helping that bond between you and your child. Now, with the conversation about the pandemic, you might start by saying, you've probably seen and heard a lot about this COVID-19 because it was pretty hard to miss when it's always on the news. We've had schools talking about it. Ask your child, do you know what it is? And do you have any questions about it? And this is just a leading question to help children start the conversation with you and know that you're prepared to talk about it. You want to be able to answer those questions honestly. And, you know, I'm all for, I had a grandfather who used to share the most wonderful fairy stories with me, and I absolutely love them. But I think while stories and helping our children with their imagination is important, when it comes to real life situations, if we are honest and age appropriate, we are going to earn our children's trust. We can stick to the facts without any grim details. We don't want to scare these poor kids. Now, one question children may ask you is, what will happen if I get it? So a lot of children actually walking around thinking, what happens if I get this COVID? Am I going to die? So you need to explain that we live in a country where there are good hospitals and doctors to take care of us. What would happen is you would go and get a test to see if you have it. And if you do have it, all the family will self-isolate together at home to protect everybody else in the community. And you can even go on to say to children, this is a great thing. As a family, we're going to stick together. We're going to look after each other. We're going to have some fun together in the home. So you're saying there is something that will happen, but and it's likely that if we did get this, this is what would occur, but it's not awful. Another question that I've heard children saying, because there's a lot of news and media about at-risk groups being the older generations. So children may ask, what will happen to grandma and grandpa if they get it? And you need to be honest. It is true that grandma and grandpa are more at risk, but everyone in Australia is doing their best to protect them. If they do get it, they will have to self-isolate. They may have to go to the hospital where we'll talk to them on the phone, while the doctors and nurses will take good care of them. So you are being completely upfront, you're being honest, and this helps children to cope and prepare for things that may happen. Now, there are some children who will have worries that you have no idea about. And in our Magic Coat workshops, we actually go through a strategy called the worry ladder. And what we do here, you don't need a fancy worksheet. You don't need anything pretty like you're seeing on the screen. You could just have a piece of paper. You get children to draw a ladder, and the ladder needs to have 10 rungs on it. Now, with the rungs, you want to put the numbers 1 through to 10, 1 at the bottom, 10 at the top. And what we say to the children is this: we want you to put your number 10 worry at the very top of the ladder. Now, this is your biggest worry. What is worrying you the most right now? Then what they can do is they can put any other worries where they believe they fit on the worry. What we're helping children to do here is unjumble and recognize what their worries are, because sometimes you can say to a child, "What are you worried about?" And they go, "I don't know." So by giving them a worry ladder, they are able to take whatever's happening in their head and put it on this worry ladder. Now, that's once we've done this, we need to do something.
Jump in, Dai, because it just sounds like a really important point, and I just want to make sure I kind of understand it properly.
Yeah.
So if I'm working with my kids, and when my kids are a bit older now, but that I'd kind of draw a ladder on a page with 10 rungs.
That's right.
And then they would kind of, whatever the worries are, the top of the ladder is the biggest.
It's the biggest worry, and then their smallest worry is all the way down. So 1 being their smallest worry, but what they're saying to you is, I still think about this, I still worry about it a little bit, but the thing that I'm worrying about the most, the thing that I'm thinking about the most is my number 10 worry. And that really helps us as parents to understand. And I know when I've done these workshops, the number of parents who'd actually cried and said, "I had no idea my child had that worry." Now, this is a really good conversation starter for families. But once we've got those worries out of a child's head, we've got them on the worry ladder, we need to go to a next step, because we need to help these children manage these worries. So what I get them to do is I say, we need to put these worries into perspective. So you'll see, if we bring up this screen, there's 4 circles. And the 4 circles, there's impossible, unlikely, likely but not awful, and somebody else's problem. And what we teach children is this: the impossible circle is where you put all the worries that are on your worry ladder, that when you talk them through with your adult, we actually know they're never going to happen. So it's impossible. We write them in the impossible circle, and we know, well, what am I worrying about that for? It's never going to happen. So I should be spending 0 energy on this worry. So to give you an example, I've had young children tell me that they can't sleep at night because they're worried about monsters in the dark. And I will actually reply to them and go, "What? There are monsters in the dark?" And they look at me and giggle. And I say, "Why are you laughing?" And they'll say, "Well, Di, monsters in the dark aren't real." And then the penny drops. And I say, "Well, if monsters in the dark aren't real, why are you worried about them? It's impossible for them to hurt you." So we put monsters in the dark in our impossible circle. This helps children understand that they shouldn't be worrying about this at all. Then we go to the unlikely circle. Now, these are things that could happen, but the chances of them happening are so small, we don't want to spend precious energy worrying about them. So this is a really good one for the pandemic. Children worrying that they're going to get COVID and die. So we talk about, well, yeah, maybe it could happen, but the chances of it happening are so tiny, you shouldn't be spending precious energy worrying about it. And you can go on and explain to them, we are doing everything we can in Australia to protect everybody. We are self-isolating, we're social distancing. You are being kept safe. So the chances of you getting it are so unlikely. You are spending precious energy where it could be spent elsewhere. Then you've got another circle there, and that's likely but not awful. So what we're saying to children here is, this is probably going to happen, but it's not awful. So to give you an example from the pandemic, the fact we have to socially isolate from time to time, and we don't know if a second wave is going to come through or not, but if we have to socially isolate because of the pandemic, it's not awful. And the reason is, as a family, we'll have quality time together. And you can actually talk through, and I will explain a little bit more about this further in the workshop. This quality time is awesome for the family. Likely but not awful, if you take it away from the pandemic, might even be children having to go to swimming lessons. So I can tell you now, my own daughter, when she was much younger, She would scream, she would kick, she would carry on, she would be in absolute terror about swimming lessons. Now, the reality is, living in a country like Australia, children need to be able to swim. So does she have to go to swimming lessons? Yes, this is likely. But why is it not awful? Because I was there watching her. She had a teacher in the pool with her. She was safe. So what I'm doing there is I'm explaining to a child that something is going to happen, but this is why you don't need to fear it. Then the final circle is somebody else's problem. And this is, especially when it comes to the pandemic, when we went through that phase, to give you an example of where toilet paper was running off the shelves, there were kids who were really concerned about that and couldn't understand why on earth toilet paper was running off the shelf. Now, what we say to children in that, you know what, that is an adult problem. It is our responsibility as an adult to make sure we have everything we need in our home. As a child, that's not something for you to worry about. As an adult, we will find a solution. So you are teaching children that there are some adult problems that you will deal with, they don't even need to think about. In a other situation, I might say to children outside the pandemic, they might see their parents arguing a lot. And what I say to kids there is, now, if two parents are choosing to argue, that is a choice they're making. It's not nice for kids to see. It's awful for kids to see, but it's not their fault and it's not their choice. So that is somebody else's problem. So, Joel, did that make sense to you, how I've put everything in a different circle?
Loved it. Yeah, thank you. And one of the questions, and I know we're focusing today specifically around primary age kids, which is
Yes.
such an important support. Just one of the questions was, did you have any experience or offerings, how something like this would translate for teenagers or for teenage kids?
It's really interesting. While we're talking about primary school age children here, I do run high school workshops as well. And I also do one-on-one work with teenagers, and I use the worry ladder and I use putting worries in perspective. This works really well for teens. Obviously, their worries are different. They are more complex. Now, one thing I will say about this is sometimes there will be a worry, and this sometimes happens with teens, that may not seem to fit in one of those circles. So what I say to an adult in that situation is that is when you need to sit down with your child and you need to explain worst case scenario. So, all right, you're worried about this. Let's say it happens. What is the worst case scenario? Now, to give you an example, I get a lot of children, their number 10 worry is dying, or parents dying in particular. It really worries kids. So I say to parents, don't fear talking about death to children, because the way I talk about death to children is death is a normal part of the circle of life. We're all born one day, and for most of us, not for a very long time, we will all die. And then I say, I talk to the children about the fact, if your parents die, let's talk to your parents about what will happen to you. And I get the parents to say to them, such and such will look after you. You will go to this school. This is where you will live. So what the child then understands, worst case scenario, they are still going to be okay. And then that lessens the worry in their head, because they know that if the worst case scenario happened, they're still going to be okay. And ultimately, that's what children need to hear. They're going to be okay. Now, one thing I just wanted to touch on with you, because in the Magic Coat, we talk a lot about adults talking with their kids, and most of our workshops are adults and children working together. But we call adults to children their lighthouse person. Now, there are some programs where we try and encourage at least 5 people for children to talk to, 5 adults that they can talk to. And while this is awesome, in my experience, what I've found is some children even struggle to find one. So I often say to kids, just if you can have one lighthouse person, and just like a lighthouse guides ships away from the rocks, a lighthouse adult guides that child through life when they're meeting those challenges and obstacles. I want every child to have a lighthouse adult. Now, that may not be a parent, that may be an auntie, an uncle, a grandparent. It may be a teacher or a social worker. I don't know if you can hear, it's absolutely bucketing down here. But it's really important that children have that lighthouse person. Now, for some children, the whole pandemic is going to be making them feel quite anxious, and anxiety in children shows up in many different forms. So some children may become very withdrawn. Some children may cry a lot. Some children will become suddenly angry and aggressive. Now, that's a really interesting point that I want to expand on, is when a child is acting out of character, sometimes we so easily go, what a naughty child. You're being a bad person. What we need to do as an adult is look beyond the behaviour to try and understand why that child is acting that way. What is triggering that behaviour? And usually what I say about anger is it comes from two other feelings. Fear, so they're fearful and scared of something, or hurt. Something has hurt them in some way. And that is why you are seeing this behaviour that is out of character for these children. So if you start seeing those sort of behaviours, you can again go back to that worry ladder and do that activity with those children to try and understand it. Now, as a parent, you are that child's number one role model. And if you're having catastrophic thinking and you're saying things like, oh my gosh, we're all going to die, you need to make sure you're not sharing those thoughts with your child, because ultimately you are your child's number one role model. And they are looking to you to see how they should react in this situation. Watch even the comments that you're making to your partner when you think your child's not there. We sometimes think our children can't hear what we're saying, and they look like they're playing Lego or they're watching TV, but I can guarantee you those little ears are pricked up listening to everything that you've got to say. So be really aware of how you're reacting. Limit the amount of news you're exposing your children to. If they're watching the news, watch it with them. Now, I've been guilty of this myself, where I've actually had my child sitting watching the news while I'm cooking dinner. But there are some really nasty things that kids get exposed to on the news. And if you're sitting with them, you can talk them through it. So a number of children who have shared worry ladders with me, most of the worries that they get are quite often from the television. So it's not just the news, but even movies kids are watching. Some people think, oh, they'll be fine. What we've got to remember is children are not developmentally ready to watch some of those movies that we're able to watch. And that's why we've got these television ratings. And we do need to take more care about the ratings and what we're allowing children to watch. Now, I can tell you, I'm guilty of being a Disney mum myself. And with my youngest daughter, when it came to even things like Harry Potter, I sat down and watched it with her. We talked it through. Now, that might seem like a little bit of being overcautious, but unfortunately, children can get little seeds planted in their head and these worries just grow. So it's our job as adults to guide them through the media that they're exposed to. Another thing that children are being exposed to, these video games, it's not helping their anxiety levels. If you top that with what's happening with the pandemic, the world must seem like a really scary place to our kids. We want to teach our children how to not worry about the past or the future. So especially with the pandemic, we're going to have children really worried about the future. And I think add to that pandemic what we're seeing on the news with all the rioting that's going on. The world seems to be going a little crazy right now. And if you're a little kid who's just watching this and not understanding what's going on, the future would seem like a really scary thing to be thinking about. So what we need to teach children to do is to bring their thoughts back to the present moment. So we want to get kids thinking about what are they doing right now. So if you've got them doing an activity like Play-Doh, or they're doing some Lego, or they're doing some schoolwork, we want them to focus. And so a mindful exercise that I teach children to do is so simple. And it's if a child starts to panic or feeling like they're panicking, I stop them and I say, what are 3 things you can see? What are 3 things you can hear? What are 3 things you can touch? Now, for younger kids, I do this in my workshops. The kids love it. It seems so simple to us as adults, but kids really enjoy it. But what they're doing, by thinking those things through, they're resetting their brain. So because they're resetting their brain, you might find later on you go, what were you worried about? And they're like, oh, can't remember. Because we have taken their mind off that worry in a really simple way. So sometimes as adults, we think mindfulness is meditation and yoga, but it's for children, it's as simple as, and for adults too, it's as simple as bringing ourselves back to the present moment. Now, what is really important for us to understand and for us to teach our children is that when we have a negative thought, it actually gives us a negative feeling, which creates a negative behavior. So let's have a think about the pandemic. The negative thought may be, grandma and grandpa are going to die. That negative feeling, you want to actually get the child to explain to you how they're feeling in their body. So they might say things like, I've got a really yucky tummy, I've got a headache, I get the shakes, children tell me they want to cry. That's the negative feeling. So then we say, well, how do you act when you have that feeling? This is the behavior. And they'll say, I cry, I run away, I hide in my room. What we're helping children to understand is the thought that they choose to focus on gives them a feeling and then in turn gives a behavior. Now, from an adult's perspective, we need to understand this so that when a child is behaving badly, we need to go right back again and understand that negative thought. But then we have to help these children change that negative thought to a positive thought. So grandma and grandma are going to die as the negative thought. I can change that to grandma and grandpa are self-isolating, they're being kept safe, everyone's looking after them. So then I have a positive feeling. And a lot of children, when they want to explain to me their positive feeling, they'll use the word calm. And that's fine, they're feeling calm. So what's their positive behavior? They can get on with their day. They can give grandma and grandpa a telephone call to see how they're going. So it's really important to understand how those thoughts affect our behavior. But we want to teach children that because we're empowering them to understand they have control over those feelings and thoughts. And that's incredibly powerful if you learn it from a young age, because you can carry it through into adulthood. Hello, Joel. Sorry, Joel, I can't hear you.
Rookie mistake. Microphone muted. Sounds like the invitation that you're kind of making, or the model you're presenting, is helping adults and kids kind of break it down a bit so things don't get all quite so jumbled up, that actually there is a sequence of kind of events or a sequence of thinking and feeling that leads to something. And sometimes all that stuff can just get mushed up.
Absolutely. And look, I think what I'll explain here, Joel, is that one of the reasons I created the Magic Coat was because while I was a teacher, I would find I may give a child some advice. The parent would give them some different advice. Another teacher would give them some different advice. And this poor child was so confused and didn't know what to do. Whereas what we really need to do is create a common language that we are all using, common strategies we're all using to help these children manage their problems and issues and anxieties. If we can do that, we can prevent some of those mental health issues down the track for these children. Now, in the Magic Coat, we have a set of characters called Amelia and Pandora. And Amelia and Pandora are an oyster and a pearl. And when I'm doing the workshop with the kids, I explain that oysters sit at the bottom of the ocean and all this yucky stuff gets washed into the oyster's mouth. Instead of closing itself off from the ocean, the oyster secretes a substance called nacre, and the nacre creates a pearl. And a pearl is one of the strongest gems you can ever get. And what I say to children is, when I found this out, I was really excited, because every day, if we think about ourselves, we get angry, we get frustrated, we can't close ourselves off from the world. We can't secrete a substance called nacre, but we can use something very powerful, and that is the power of self-talk. So I say to children, do you ever hear your own voice in your head? And they'll all put their hand up and say, yes, I hear my own voice. And I talk to them about the fact those are your thoughts. And we have between 40 and 50,000 thoughts every day. And for some of us, we choose the negative thoughts. So I'm not good enough. The pandemic's going to kill me. The future's not good. The world sucks. And I said, how are you going to feel if they're the thoughts you are choosing to focus on? And children get it. They'll go, oh, I'm going to feel awful if they're the thoughts that I'm going to focus on. So how do we change that self-talk? Well, we change that self-talk to start choosing thoughts like, everything's going to be okay. I am safe. I am loved. My family are all together. They're going to protect me. And we teach something called positive affirmations. And these are really short and simple statements that children say to themselves to get themselves through those negative thoughts. Like I just said, I'm safe, I'm loved, this will pass. These are all things children can say to help get through this difficult time that we're having. Now, it's really important that before your children crawl into bed at night, all those worries are out of their head. Now, we talked about the worry ladder, and we can certainly use that. But as something that's ongoing, in the Magic Coat, we have a character called Winona the Worry Walrus, and she encourages children to never go to bed at night or to never walk around with all their worries stuck in their head. They need to make sure they're out so that they can get a good night's sleep. So we talk to children about having a notebook next to their bed, and when those negative thoughts come along, they can quickly write them down. So getting that thought out of their head and onto paper. They journal that they have, we actually encourage parents to read. And we say to the child, this is not a secret diary. This is a journal for you to share with your lighthouse person. Because it's really important that as a parent, you're able to help your child with their worries. And you're only going to be able to do that if you understand what those worries are exactly. So by using Winona, that encourages children, because it's character-based, to actually remember to never go to bed with those worries and thoughts in their head. And for many children, that will prevent nightmares later on. It will help them get a better night's sleep because their thoughts are not playing around in their head. Now, just on the pandemic, another thing we need to talk to children about is why we are required to have physical distancing. And this can be really hard. Look, I'm personally a real hugger. I love hugging people. I found this physical distancing thing super hard. But for children, many children are huggers. And understanding that they need to physically distance from the people that they're normally so close to, that can be really tough. But we need them to know that we're all working together to keep each other safe. So when children understand the why of something, they're better able to cope with it. So I never just say to a child, no, don't do that. I will always explain to a child, no, you can't do that because, and the reason we're going to do it differently is this reason. When children understand that, you will find they're more likely to follow through with it because they have an understanding. So I think sometimes we don't give children enough credit for how smart they really are. So by honestly explaining things to them, they will accept the word no when it's said and explained. Now, we need to point out that spending more time at home together is a great thing because you can spend quality time together. Now, as a parent, the important word here is quality. So many of us, and I can tell you, I've been guilty of this myself. We're on our phone, we're on our computer, we're watching Netflix, our children are talking to us, we're hearing blah, 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 but we're actually not really listening to them. And I've even had my own daughter, she's stuck her head between my phone and my face and going, are you listening to me? I've had my daughter in the car, she'll be chatting away to me, and at the end she's actually said to me, all right, Mum, I'm going to quiz you now to see if you actually heard what I was saying. Quality time for children isn't just doing fun stuff. Quality time for children is about having good communication. So making eye contact so they know you're listening to them, showing lots of affection, showing an interest in what your child is doing, finding some simple things to do together, like a puzzle, even, folding laundry or baking a cake. Now, I know folding laundry, you're thinking, my kid's never going to do that. But if you're folding laundry and you're giving them the opportunity to talk to you, you might be surprised just how much they enjoy that because they have got your full attention. So quality time is super important. Now, you'll probably find that your school-age children are really missing their friends and family when they're having to self-isolate, or grandma and grandpa can't see them. So this can cause some levels of separation anxiety. And in the Magic Coat, we actually use a character called Michelle and the magic string of shells. And what we say to children is every shell on that magic string is someone that you want to stay close and connected to. So everybody's magic string would be different. My magic string would have my daughters, my partner, my parents. I've had children say to me, can I have my pet on there? Of course you can. It's your magic string of shells. I had one little boy ask me if that magic string of shells went to heaven because he'd lost his father. I said, of course it does. This magic string can go anywhere and it can never be broken by anyone. So what we're teaching children to do then is get a piece of paper, draw your own magic string of shells, and write down on each shell, each person that you want to stay close and connected to. This is helping children understand that they are always connected to that person. Then what we say, and this is where imagination comes in, when you're missing a particular person, imagine you've got their shell in your hand. You then give it a squeeze, close your eyes, send them an invisible hug. And because we're all connected by energy, they'll feel that hug and send you one right back. Now, the joy that this brings children when they realize they are always connected to those they love is just gorgeous. So Me Shell is a really good strategy for children during COVID who are missing their family and missing their friends. Now, during this pandemic, children are going to need routine now more than ever. Now, the interesting thing here is that I've spoken to a number of families and they really struggled because they didn't really have a set routine before the pandemic. So they were wondering, well, how do I set a routine now that we're all at home and living through this pandemic? It's actually really simple. What I say to families is you are better to create a routine and rules and consequences as a family, because when we empower children to be part of creating these household routines, they're more likely to go through with them. So you want to include things like meal times. And it's important children have a breakfast, a lunch, dinner, some snack times. And when you're talking to kids about routine, get them to suggest ideas of what foods they think are okay to include. And while it's okay to have some fun food, we really want to get kids thinking about their proper nutrition, because it's a good opportunity to start instilling those good habits. And we know that nutrition affects mental health and it affects children's anxiety levels. So we do want to make sure the food we're giving our children is nutritious. We want to make sure that there's a good bedtime routine. And I've unfortunately been hearing that some children with their bedtimes, they are playing video games till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning because they felt there was no school the next day and that was okay. Now, if we want our children to have good mental health, to have positive behaviours, to be feeling good, they need to be getting at least 9 or 10 hours sleep a night. And as parents, it is our role to set those routines. So we need to get children having a decent bedtime routine where they're getting a good night's sleep. So I can tell you, I usually say to families, and I live by this myself, no televisions, computers, or devices in the bedroom. In our home, we have one television. We all watch it together. The girls have a desk that is in our living room, and I can walk past and see what they're doing on the computer all the time. And this is really important. This is my job as a parent, to monitor what my children are doing. So with technology time, you need to include in the routine how much technology time you're allowing the child to have each day, but include unplugged time. And unplugged time can be fun. You know, puzzles, arts and crafts. We were fortunate enough here in Australia, many of us were able to still do nature walks. That is a really important unplugged time. So routine, you really do need to think it through, and you need to create boundaries. So boundaries are like rules. And some parents actually get quite concerned that setting boundaries will make their children angry. I can tell you now that children feel safe and secure when they have boundaries, because they know what the expectations are of them. When they don't know what's expected of them, that only creates a sense of confusion. And when children have boundaries, they feel like someone actually cares for them and someone is monitoring what they're doing. So they feel loved. So don't be afraid to set boundaries, but have children be part of creating those boundaries. What I say to a family, a big piece of butcher's paper, sit around, write all the rules together, and then circle the ones that everyone is happy to live by. Once you've done that, you've got a list that you can put on your fridge. You know what the rules are for everyone to abide by, including parents. But then you create a set of consequences. What will happen if you don't live by those rules? And the consequences, obviously, I don't agree with any humiliation or physical punishment, but consequences like taking away technology time out. We want to give children the understanding that breaking a rule is not okay. There has to be a consequence for actions. Otherwise, we never help children understand what the right behaviours in life are. So because we're all stuck at home with this pandemic, I'm hearing a lot of families tell me that they've had to lax the rules so much. That's not a good idea. Children will feel more safe and secure having those boundaries in place. Throughout this pandemic, we want to remind children of all the positives that are coming out of it. So the earth is having time to breathe and heal. Families are spending more quality time together. People are showing care to one another. We're teaching children that there is a positive coming out. And one thing I've always taught children that's really important is that no matter what a situation there is, there's two sides, like a pancake. There may be a negative side, but if we look closely enough, there's a positive side. And if we can teach children to look for the positive in any negative situation, we're building resilience, because they are understanding that there is good in everything. And that's a really good way to be thinking and making ourselves feel less anxious. Joel, has anyone got questions for me?
No, you're doing too good a job answering them all.
Oh,
So I guess I'm wondering if you might have a question for the people that are listening. Like what for you are the things that you'd be asking people to think about or reflect on? Because there may be some comments that we can then play with.
I'm actually really curious to see and hear from people how did they fill in that time as a family? So when we're talking about quality time, how were families finding quality time, and what did that look like?
Nice.
That would be a question for me. I think another thing is, did people let go of the rules and allow their children to kind of just do their own thing? And I'd be curious to know if children manage that well. I know for my own children that understanding what the expectation is really important. And I've got one daughter who routine is so important to her. She feels better knowing what's happening in her day. If a routine's going to change, she just needs a little bit of pre-warning. Now, we don't want children believing that life, you shouldn't be flexible in life. Flexibility is a super important part of life. But we need to teach children that to have that flexibility, to start that, they need to have a little bit of warning. So as parents, we need to look ahead and guide our children through that.
Amazing. So there's a question there about how do I respond to my child if he says she feels like in her tummy?
Sorry, what was that? What feels like?
How do I respond to my child if she says she feels like in her tummy? So I'm just wondering, Chandel, if you can just clarify what you mean by feels sick in her tummy.
Oh, it feels. Oh, spellos, gotta love them.
Yeah.
Okay. I often talk to children about one of the feelings of anxiety. Children will say they get butterflies in their tummy. Now, I can tell you a true story here. I had a child burst into tears. She would have been in year one, and she believed real butterflies had flown into her tummy, and that really scared her. So it's important, if you've got a really young child, to explain that butterflies are this little fluttering feeling that can sometimes make us feel sick in our tummy. And it's just our body letting us know that we're not feeling right about something. So when it comes to anxiety, I always say to children, you never ignore the feeling of anxiety, because anxiety can actually be there to protect us. It's our body's alarm system telling us that something isn't quite right. We need to stop, look around, make sure we're okay. If everything around us is okay, then we can go and get our lighthouse person and do an activity like the worry ladder to try and understand why we're getting these feelings. But if we're getting those feelings and we're at a really busy street with all these cars and trucks going past us, that's our body telling us to stop and be careful. So anxiety is one of those feelings you never say to a child, you ignore it. So being sick in the tummy, stop, look around you. Are you safe? And if you are, what is it that you're actually worried about?
Amazing. Thank you. And what I love about what you're offering as well is that thing of don't override what your body's telling you. Like so much of of society in today kind of takes people and kids out of what they're feeling. And yeah.
And even during this pandemic, some children have been experiencing a lot more anger and aggression. And what happens is we tend to get angry at the angry child. But as I said before, that anger comes from the two emotions of fear and hurt. So what I say to children is, you know what? It's actually okay to be angry. It's just not okay to hurt yourself or another person when you're angry. So when you're angry, we actually teach some strategies. And I'll quickly share this poem with you because it's really beneficial during the pandemic for kids to learn it. And it goes like this. It's the Magic Coat Stress Less poem. And it goes, close your eyes and count to 10. Write a help note with your pen. Visualize a peaceful place. Make sure you're in your own space. Relax tight muscles in your arms and hands. Now you can carry on with your plans. And now that poem has a number of different strategies children can use when they're feeling stressed or when they're feeling angry. But we found that them just learning that poem, reciting that poem resets that brain. That angry and stressed brain gets reset by saying it. But if we go through it, close your eyes and count to 10. That can be done anywhere, shopping centre, at home, in a car. Write a help note with your pen. Some children can't talk when they're feeling stressed and angry. So give them a piece of paper and allow them to draw their feelings out, scribble their feelings out. For some children who are a little bit more composed, allow them to write a letter about how they're feeling and give it to their lighthouse person. When we talk about visualize a peaceful place, allow children to use their imagination to take themselves to a place where they feel safe. For some children, they have a real place. So some kids have explained they've got a tree house or a cubby, their bedroom. But some kids really love to make things up. My own daughter used to tell me she was sitting on top of a rainbow and could look down on all the treetops and birds, and that was her happy place. Telling children to make sure they're in their own space is saying to kids, when you're feeling anxious, angry, or stressed, take yourself away from everyone and give yourself the time to calm down. And I think even during this pandemic, we're all kind of living really tightly together. So what we need to do as parents is try and make sure that our children have a space that is just for them. And it doesn't need to be a big space. So I've even said to parents, you can go and get one of those big IKEA mosquito nets, hang it in a corner, put a couple of cushions in there, and that can be the child's place to go when they need to calm down. So even if you've only got a really small space, there is a way to give children a special space. So you can see that poem is just really about giving kids strategies rather than saying, don't get stressed, don't get angry. As adults, it's our job to say, you don't need to, it's okay to feel that way, but here's some strategies to manage it.
I love it, Dai. We've actually got somebody that's going to join in just a second. But I'm wondering if, and I'll just ask Beck if you could put your microphone, join the audio as well, Beck, not just the video, and we'll get you to put your audio on in a sec. But could you maybe give us that poem again? Because it sounds like an important thing to connect to.
Yeah, absolutely. So the poem it's the Magic Coat Stress Less poem. And it goes, close your eyes and count to 10. Write a help note with your pen. Visualize a peaceful place. Make sure you're in your own space. Relax tight muscles in your arms and hands. Now you can carry on with your plans.
Thank you very much. So we'll just see if we can get Beck on the call and joining us. So she's trying. Okay. So what we might do, there's a question from the chat, and I'm going to help Beck with her audio while you respond to that. So actually, it's more of a sharing about somebody being terrified that if they ate a seed from a bit of fruit, it's going to kind of grow into a tree in their stomach, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. So when children do really overthink things sometimes, and some of their worries can seem, as adults, we think they're silly. I never tell a child that their worry is silly because we don't want to humiliate them and we want them to keep talking to us. So if a child comes and says, oh my gosh, I ate a seed, is a tree going to grow in my tummy? Sit down with them without mocking or laughing at them and say, no, that's not going to happen. It's going to pass through you. It's fine. Because children, to them, that's a worry that will continue to grow. If you've got a child, now I have had children who are autistic and who really think things through. When that happens, you can even go to Google with your child and do some research on a topic if it helps them, but show them that you are willing to find an answer even if you don't know it yourself. Because they then feel supported by you. They know that they can talk to you about anything. But the best way to help a child is to know that you don't think that they're silly, and you're there for them, and you will help them find a solution.
Very lovely. So yeah, we're just getting Beck on joining on the phone as well. So we'll just give her a moment or two.
No.
And you were basically asking people to kind of reflect on what they've seen work, what they've seen, and actually, interestingly, what's your take? This is I'll put myself on the therapist couch here. What's your like? As I said, my kids are quite a bit older now, but if you get two kids that they're not the same. They kind of each child kind of responds to things differently. So this thing of how do you be fair but also responsive to an individual child's needs?
I really love that you brought that up, because one thing I say to parents in my workshops is fair doesn't mean equal. So fair means that everyone gets what they need. So if you're working in a classroom, you've got 30 children, they have all got different needs, they've all got different personalities. So being fair doesn't mean that every child is treated exactly the same. You have to give each child what they need, and that's the same in a family home. You're going to be dealing with different personalities, and those different personalities require you to change your strategies to manage what's best for that child. And I think when you've got siblings, if you have a family conversation or meeting where you explain that your role as parents is to support each of them as individuals, and say to them you love them all so much, but your role is to make sure you support them individually, you will get a lot of respect from your children for that. They will understand that.
As long as they just comply with everything I want to do, obviously. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Well, Joel, that I did say when we were setting boundaries, it's a family set of rules, and that means parents are included in those rules. And the reason I say that is, while parents certainly get some privilege being parents, we also want to role model to our children how a family works. So to give you a really quick example, in my family, we have a chore rule where there's 4 of us in the house. At night, it doesn't matter what the combination is, 2 of us will cook dinner and 2 of us will clean up. So depending what you do, so long as you are contributing as a family, the best way we work is when we work together. So by giving children that role modeling, you are teaching them that when they later leave home and they have their own relationships, how to treat one another with respect and make a family home work by everyone contributing.
Love it. Love it, love it. And it is that interesting thing, isn't it? And I'm just wondering if you have views on the whole thing of the token economy. This thing of pocket money or not get pocket money. I certainly found that my youngest child was far too smart for his own good, and he would actually go, like, that's actually not worth it. I would rather not get the $2 or the $5 or the $1. Like how you kind of manage that kind of thing.
Look, I think pocket money is a very personal family decision to make, because I know for a long time I was a single mum and I couldn't afford pocket money. And for my girls, they learnt that because I was working, we had to work together for our home to function. Now, I have no issue with pocket money, because pocket money is great for teaching money management. And both my girls got part-time jobs. They've learnt, and with that, I've taught them to save some, they get to spend some. But I also, and this is completely up to individuals, I actually encourage my children to do some form of charity, because if you want your children to be less anxious, one of the things that helps them be less anxious is to help others. And when you do something good for others or show kindness to others, you feel really great yourself. So that's something I've always taught my kids. But there are things that I would say you shouldn't be rewarded. I think children should be responsible for cleaning up their own room. If they've got their own bathroom, they're responsible for cleaning their own bathroom. You're not being a nasty parent expecting that of them. You are actually, your role is to guide these children to become positive and contributing members of society. And that means they need to know how to do these day-to-day things. If you teach them from a young age how to manage some of these smaller jobs, it's not going to be such a huge shock to them when they're older. It becomes second nature. So I don't think pocket money should be given for the basics like keeping your room tidy, making your bed. I think you're teaching your child self-respect and a respect for family.
Amazing. Okay, looks like we may have Beck Kelly on the line. So Beck, I'll get you just to open up your camera and unmute your mic as well. And we'll see if we can get that working, or worst case scenario, see if we can just get the mic happening. So I'm going to unmute you. Beck, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you okay. Yeah. Hi, Joel.
Hello. And are
Can
you able
hear me?
to? Yeah, that's perfect. And are you able to get your camera working, or is that a non-starter for you?
Start video. I don't think so.
Cool.
I'm
That's
sorry,
okay.
I'm having some terrible issues here.
No drama. So I just let you know, Beck's actually an author as well, and she's written a book
Awesome.
on mindfulness for children. So I'm going to leave you two authors to have a bit of a chat with each other.
Thanks, Joel.
Hello, Dai. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for joining us.
Very welcome.
So you had...
Sorry, say that again.
So you're an author? Oh, there you are. Hello.
Oh, can you see me?
I can see you now.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
I can't seem to see anything. Hello. Nice to see you. It's a bit improv, so yes, not very prepared.
So you're an author?
Yeah, I'm an author. I've just published a book here about mindfulness for children, and I, like you, Di, very passionate about prevention of mental health for children. I work with children with anxiety, and exactly as you've been saying before about getting so confused with the thoughts and feelings. And I think in this day and age we seem to be seeing more and more of this. So I was inspired by my daughter. She suffers from anxiety. And so I was inspired to write a book on mindfulness for them. And it covers a lot of the things that you said about the positive, about how the emotions feel inside of the body. I'll try and show you some of the pictures. And then looking at some breathing techniques for them to be able to manage themselves. And then I've put those voices of positive into animals that she experiences, so that the kids can kind of get an identity around it, bless them. And then, some of the thoughts that they might be experiencing, the negative thoughts and the positive self-talk. And then it just goes through and we look at some strategies of, breathing techniques that this young girl that's experiencing the anxiety practices, and then at the end we do a lovely little meditation in the bed of just breathing and again just practicing.
I love
calming down.
I love how you talk about the breathing and the meditation, because when children get very panicked, their breathing comes from their chest, and then that's when they start to feel lightheaded and they feel dizzy, and that the panic sets in. So getting them to breathe from their belly and taking those big deep breaths in. I love that you've included that in your book. And the bedtime meditation is gorgeous too, and it's really nice for parents to get involved in that as well. So it's I find with my own daughter, we have her favourite part of the day, even as a teenager, is we all pile on her bed before she goes to sleep at night, and we have like a quick gratitude as a family. We all share what we were grateful for that day. And it's just a really nice way for kids to understand the world is not all bad. There's a lot of good. So I love what you've done, Beck. I think that's fantastic, the way you've illustrated that. So well done.
Thanks so much. And
You there?
Yep, I'm still here, yes.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous, Beck. And I'm glad you're getting it out and about.
Exactly. Thank you for having me, and good luck. I love the work that you're doing. It's absolutely amazing. So lovely to meet you all.
Cool. Take care, Beck.
Take care, Beck.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Oh, that was lovely.
All right. So it's back to you for closing, I'd say, Dai.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's taken the time this morning to listen to me. It's lovely knowing that there are so many people out there looking after our kids on the front line. That's parents, caregivers, social workers, psychologists, teachers. They're doing some amazing work, and these never underestimate the influence you're having on these children. I think that's my biggest message, because while you may feel that society doesn't recognise what you're doing, I know that you are making a huge difference in the lives of those children. So thank you, everyone, for having me. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to email me at the Magic Coat. I think Joel had a slide there that's got some more information, and there's contact details there. But I'm very happy to talk to anyone later. But Joel, thank you. You were amazing.
No problems. You're very, very welcome.
The WAAMH, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time. So just so people kind of know, if you're wanting to get in touch with WAAMH, you can get them on the website or via email. But this is all part of the lead up to the Mental Health Awareness Week in October this year. And this is all a series of events. And as I said at the start, this was supported by the Mental Health Commission. So please feel free to get in touch and be part of that, because this is all important for the whole community. In the Facebook, in the comment section, there's actually a bit of a survey, and it would be great to get you and everyone to fill that in and to get your feedback. But with that, Dai, I am saying thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
And I think we'll call it a day.
Awesome. Have a beautiful day, everyone.